Welcome back. Agenda 2063 is Africa's blueprint and master plan for transforming Africa into the global powerhouse of the future. The plan identifies key activities to be undertaken in its 10-year implementation plans, which will ensure that it delivers transformational outcomes for the African continent. Now, Africa has finalized its first 10-year implementation plan, the FTYIP, and moving to the next 10-year implementation phase of Agenda 2063. The FTYIP achievements and shortcomings has brought opportunities for the next implementation phase. For more insight on how Namibia can equally contribute to the African agenda, I'm now joined by Mr. Avshalom Ngifitikeko. He's the Director of Multilateral Relations and Cooperation in the Ministry of International Relations and Cooperation. So good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us here on the Daily Roundup.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to you and the viewers.
Talk to us about, the role that Namibia is playing in this implementation of Agenda 2063, and of course, how it plans to contribute to the success of the second 10-year implementation period.
Thank you very much, Nina. In 2016, Namibia was privileged to chair the AU Ministerial Follow-up Committee that was actually responsible for overseeing the implementation of Agenda 2063. And Namibia was represented by Honorable Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah, the Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of International Relations and Cooperation. So during her chairship, she was really working together with ministers from different countries. We had about 5 countries represented in that committee, alongside the AU Commission, to really give guidance towards the implementation of Agenda 2063. As you are aware, the first 10-year plan was rolled out in 2013, and then into 14, and then moving 10 years later to 2023. And the importance thereof during that time was that since it was really the first plan that was being rolled out, there was a need to really consolidate the gains around domestication, understanding the overall Agenda 2063. So Namibia was at the forefront at the ministerial level to ensure that these aspects were really being rolled out, and the continent was moving as well.
Mm-hmm. And what will be the key priorities of the AU during the second 10-year implementation of Agenda 2063?
Sorry, the line is cutting a bit. You mentioned the priorities during the first 10-year plan?
Now, the key priorities for the second 10-year implementation of Agenda 2063.
Okay, thank you very much. I think really what needs to be understood is that the implementation of Agenda 2063, the first 10-year plan, did not go so well. It was moderate. And so what has happened is the Commission plus the Member States have decided that most of the elements under the first 10-year plan will be carried out into the second, but with a key focus on really strengthening the implementation mechanisms both at national level and at the continental level. Mm-hmm. So you will still have key focuses on education, social protection, on alleviating poverty, addressing climate issues, and building strong institutions that are there to enhance development across the continent. So there will be more of a focus on strengthening implementation measures and also enhancing financing, both nationally and continentally, and of course reaching out to partners, and also looking at how the continent can leverage existing mechanisms at the international level, working in tandem with relevant institutions such as the UN and so forth, but are focused on the UN SDGs. So there's really a complementarity with trying to ensure that our own plans are not moderately implemented any longer, but we're going to have a higher rate of implementation moving forward.
Mm-hmm. And as you just mentioned, the first phase, the first 10-year plan fared moderately, and that, of course, some of those challenges now will be carried over into the second 10-year phase. So talk to us about the strategies that have been put in place to ensure its success, and, of course, that, it won't be carried over into a third phase.
Thank you very much. As you are aware, for example, in the area of peace and security, this area is quite how should I say, costly to have peace support operations, to have mechanisms that address peace-related issues. And so what has happened under the first phase, there was a strategy, a peace fund that was established to ensure that member states put together funding that will then ensure that the continent takes ownership of its own financing. So this measure will certainly be strengthened because the continent continues to face some conflicts, and you are well aware of some of the unconstitutional changes of government happening and other areas of mediation that are necessary. But this is one area where funding will be strengthened to ensure that the continent is able to meet its own targets. As you are aware that under the first 10-year plan, the idea was to ensure that by 2020, the guns will be silenced. Mm-hmm. But noting the challenges there, that deadline was shifted to 2030, just to give the member states a little bit more time to address such mechanisms, such challenges. Also at the national level, there's a drive to say, no, we can't just talk about ending guns or silencing the guns at the continental level. We need to bring this down to the national level and really encourage a culture of peace. So there has been some initiatives towards building a culture of peace, setting up peace initiatives, having the AU youth envoy, for example, with youth ambassadors then across the continent as one of the measures that are addressing this issue.
Just very finally, sir, talk to us about the opportunities that exist for collaboration, and partnership between Namibia and other member states in achieving, the goals of 2063, of Agenda 2063.
Thank you very much. I think one of the key successes of Agenda 2063 to date is the establishment and the launch of the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA, which many of our viewers are probably acquainted with, as well as the rollout and the entry into force of the single Africa air traffic market. And this, which is called SATAM. And the two projects are really also closely related. The first one has to do with liberalization of trade across Africa. So really what we're looking at is being able to access markets across the continent. So there are opportunities for countries to work together to be able to produce more goods on the continent with, in terms of the rules of origin, saying that the goods have to be produced or have a value or a higher value of production on the continent, so that they can benefit from tax or lower tariff rates. And so collaboration in terms of trade is good, industrialization, manufacturing, which would enhance then job creation for our people on the continent. So it's really for us as a continent to take ownership of our own development, aspiring to ensure that poverty is alleviated, our people have higher standards of living, to make sure that they're living at the standard that all of us really aspire to and want to live, even in terms of education, etc. So really AFCFTA is one big area, and then SATAM is another one where we want to be able to have more liberalized air connectivity, because even for us to fly from one area of the continent to another, sometimes we have to fly to Europe, we have to fly to Middle East to come back to the continent just to connect, and so that lowers business turnover and connectivity, people-to-people exchange, and so there's really a space for collaboration so that we can have more connection when it comes to our air traffic market.
Mr. Avshalom, on that note, I thank you for joining us this evening and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Thanks to the viewers.
Well, when we come back, we have some more conversations lined up for you.